Good day, podcast community. PeteKane here, Podcast Pete and lifestyle coach. And we have a special guest. I've been after Molly to come on the show for probably a long time. And finally, we got her on the show. So, Molly, I know you a little bit better than our guests. Tell our guests who you are, what you do, and who you serve, and then we'll get into the podcast and your story.
All right. Thanks, Pete. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
So my name is Molly Spa, and I'm with Assisted Living Locators, and I'm a senior care specialist, senior care advisor, and I help find assisted living, independent living, memory care options for people that might not be able to stay in their homes anymore. So if they're ready to move out or they want to have more activities and they want to have more interests that they can, have at their fingertips and they want to move out of their home, that's where I help them. So I help narrow it down so that they're not just randomly calling a million places in their neighborhood. I can say, you don't want to go to that one. This one's too expensive. This one's great. And then I can help them narrow it down. So it's really nice to work with the families and help them find that solution.
Yeah. And there's such a, I lived in a senior living facility, and when it was for about a year and a half. So it was 55 and older, independent. And when I moved in, I was thinking, maybe 60, 65. I found out it was 80 plus.
Yeah.
So it was like an eye opener for me to actually experience that stage of life. But what really stood out to me is how many people try to do it on their own. They just don't know. And I remember when I first met Tara, and she told me what she did, I went, oh my gosh, you mean there's somebody out there that actually holds you by the hand and walks you through that maze of just unknown? So what drew you to want to be in the senior community and serving seniors?
Well, so that's kind of a loaded question. I'll try not to go off on too many tangents, but, and shocker, I do talk a lot. I've had a lot of different jobs in the last few years, and I've kind of taken jobs just like, well, I needed something and I'm not sure, maybe that's something I'll like, and then find out I really don't, or it didn't work out or whatever. And I'm 54 years old. I feel like I should already be established in my career, and I just haven't been in that right place for a long time. And when I was my last job that I was doing before this one, I was networking with a lot of senior organizations. And that's when I was like, this is where I feel at home. This is where I want to be, but I don't want to be in this job. I want to be in something else in the senior care industry. And I started to tell a few people and that I was looking, and somebody said, I know Tara is looking to hire a marketer or somebody that can help with networking events and all of that and bringing in leads. And I thought, that sounds interesting. And I didn't really know much about it. Mm-hmm. And then now that I'm doing it, I think, my father was in real estate growing up in upstate New York, and he had a lot of apartment buildings and he rented to a lot of students, but he also owned nursing homes and assisted living community. He had Garden Village and so his office was there. And I used to go to his office as a little girl, and I would hang out with him, and I would, like after school, I'd go see Daddy. And while I went to see him, I was with all the 80-year-olds and the 90-year-olds, and they were all, and back then, nursing homes, it was a little different. They're not as nice. I mean, not nice, but they're not as robust as they are now, but they were it was still nice. Mm-hmm. And so I would have my birthday parties there. I would eat the meals with them because, they would serve meals and I would be there and they'd be like, Molly, come over and eat. So I'd be 5 years old sitting at a table with 20 80-year-olds, and I loved it. And then growing up, I was very close with my grandfather, my father's father. He lived really close to us. And every day he picked me up from elementary school and took me out, got me a snack. And then he'd come over and have dinner with us every night. Mm-hmm. And so I really grew up around seniors. Like I would go out to breakfast with him and his friends because I would drive, and I would take them out, and I would take him everywhere for his groceries. Like he drove, but when I got older, then I would have to take care of him. Mm-hmm. And then he moved to Atlanta. We were all in Atlanta. And we were all caring for my grandfather. And then somehow it shifted. Like I'm now the age of my parents, and my parents are now my grandparents' age. Mm-hmm. And so now I'm still caring for my parent. Like my grandfather's long gone. Mm-hmm. But I've always stayed in this senior connection where I really care about taking care of seniors. And so as I've been in this job and I've been going around to different communities and I've been doing tours and I've been meeting the different people at the rehabs and everything, while I'm standing there, if I see a person like struggling, like they drop something, I'm always going to go over and help them pick it up. I'm always going to like be the one that talks to them and says, I like your shirt or what, I'm always the one I'm not just there to see the person I'm there to see. I'm always going to look around. And I really get a lot of joy out of that. So I think I'm finally in the right place. I think whether I stay with assisted living locators or, I love the senior space. So I love what I'm doing. I love the service that I provide. I love working with Tara. And I just think now I'm in my place. So,
ooh, I love it. I started out when my partner, after my stroke, I couldn't do digital marketing, which I did, probably gave me a stroke. But anyway, he was saying, well, what, you like golf, Pete, so why don't you do golf podcasting? So I started off doing it, but I wasn't playing it. So I quickly said, nah, I just wasn't feeling it. Like you're saying, when you're home. So I was in a senior home and I'm seeing all the things that go on with people. I'd ask them, how'd you find this place? I just kind of looked on the internet and my daughter said, hey, this might be a good place. And some of them would say it wasn't a good fit.
Right.
So I was surprised when I was asking people, they were doing it on their own.
Right. And they might not have been in the right place. They might have been in a place that was okay, but they could have found something better had they used somebody like me.
Yeah, because you're talking to a salesperson. Right. What's their job? Sell you on the facility.
Yes.
But you look at it from a different set of eyes because you know the area, the good ones from the bad ones. And what I noticed was a lot of private equity was coming in. They were buying units and they want to turn a profit. And they were just, the service started to go down in these facilities. So tell our viewers, like, when you're out there learning about the different locations, what's the hardest thing to really find out what really goes on in a place? What do you do? What do you look for?
I always look around at the residents and just look at what they're doing and what their demeanor is. And like, are they just spaced out and like out of it and no one's watching that they're drooling, or are they engaged and are they in an art class and are they doing Tai Chi? And, I kind of look and see, because some places are more involved and some are less, but some people want that. So it's not a negative for some people. It would be a negative for me because I want the activities, but somebody like my husband, he'd be very happy just being left alone. So it's all, and that's where I come in, because if I'm working with a couple and they want two different things, there might be a community that has both of those things. And there might be a community that only has one and not both. So I can help them accommodate both of their needs. And maybe even with a husband and wife, like I'm working with a couple now where the husband needs more help than the wife. She's younger and he's got some issues and needs some more help. And so, but they can still live together and get him extra help in independent. She doesn't have to go to assisted living because he needs it. He can live with her in independent living. So there's different options, and not every place will do that. So some places will offer extra care in different. So that's another thing where my expertise and working with an agent is helpful, especially since we're free. We don't charge anything for our services. So, but I was thinking about my parents. They, in the last couple of years, moved into independent living in New York. And leading up to that point, they were living on their own in an apartment in New York City. And then my mom had some health issues and was in rehab, had to go to rehab. And while she was recovering, we were having to take care of my dad. Like my dad has dementia and we were having to deal with that. So between the four of us, my four siblings, we were researching places and looking at like, where do we put them? Where do we go? What's going to happen? And how much is it going to cost? And what do we do with all their stuff? And it was really overwhelming. And between the four of us, we kind of divided and conquered. My sister is the one that actually ended up finding where they are now. And it was just, there was a lot of factors that we had to consider. And then all the paperwork and all of the qualifications and the assessments. And we did it all by ourselves. And luckily it worked out great. They're thriving. They're so happy where they are. It all worked out. My dad's dementia is kind of holding at bay. Like it's not, doesn't seem like it's getting worse. I mean, he's still happy and my mom has help with him. So she's not she wants to be the spouse, not the caregiver.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's important too, because my mom, she doesn't have dementia, and she shouldn't have to be taking all of her days dealing with my dad.
Yes.
When she should be enjoying his company and not having to, be frustrated. And so having the aide come in and having meals provided and her not having to cook for them and clean it all up. It's really been, it's wonderful to hear her talk about how happy she is being where she is, because
Mm-hmm.
we never knew that was going to be, we could have done this years ago had we known that it was going to be so successful for them. And
Yeah.
and we, now they're thriving. And I think in some ways they're doing better than when they lived alone, because they have people around them. They have smells, they have sounds, they have lights, they have, if they want to watch a movie, they can watch anything they want without having to figure out how to find it on their TV. They just tell the guy at the movie theater in their place, hey, can we watch this tonight? And he puts the Fire Stick in and watches whatever they want. So I think it's really valuable for people to understand that they're not nursing homes like they used to be.
Yeah.
That these are independent and assisted living communities that are really fantastic. And there's lots of different budgets. There's some that are $4,000 a month and some that are $16,000 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And the $16,000 a month doesn't necessarily mean that it's that much better than the $4,000. It could be better for some. And some people, I had somebody that moved out of the fancy one because they didn't give enough care. So it's really, there's so many options. It's overwhelming to me learning them all too, because I'm constantly asking Tara, this is what they need. What do I do? And she rattles off 7 different places. And I'm like, when am I going to get to that point where I'm going to know those 7 without having to ask her, because I'm still learning. So,
there is, I kind of named this the Community Matters podcast. And I try to look for what the guest really excels in. And I know, like, when I first moved in to Overture, and I was hanging out at the golf course down the street, and I got back, it was a little bit dark, and I usually don't drive in the dark now. So I pull up and there's a van there, and in the van, I'm going, dang, they must be doing something late at night. Well, it was somebody it was the morgue picking up somebody. So I was like, whoa, man, it was my first kind of exposure to people do die. And they die in facilities. But anyway, I'm on the elevator going up, and I love to meet people. So there's a lady, and she's new, and I say, hey, I'm Pete. Are you, I said, are you come here? Or I don't know what I said. She goes, no, my dad lived here and he passed away yesterday. And I said, oh, I'm sorry. I said, maybe I knew him. I said, what was his name? And she told me his name. And I said, no, I didn't know him. She said, well, he never really left his room. My brother and I would come visit him, but he just didn't do anything. And I saw that in the facility is like we all, whether we're an introvert or extrovert. And I even had a neighbor when I introduced myself and I said, come on, I'll introduce you to some people at breakfast. She goes, I'm an introvert. I said, hey, we got plenty of introverts down there.
In your room, right?
And I'm both. But here's what I wanted to ask you. Community, because I had a couple that she used to work for me, and they moved into a facility. They're in their 80s. They both love it. I mean, they have the meals made for them. They have community there. They're connecting. They're doing all kinds of stuff. Yeah. And he says it's like a country club.
Yeah.
Because he's a golfer like myself. So how is it, what do you say when people are transitioning? A lot of it is the unknown. Mm-hmm. How do you talk to people about the advantages of community, however they see community? How do you talk to them about that valuable thing that's so important in our life?
Well, like you said, not everybody wants to be out. Like I met somebody and she's a quilter and she likes to quilt by herself because she said, I don't think I'm very good. And I don't want people looking at what I'm just doing it because I like it. And I don't want somebody to say, oh, it's crooked or, she doesn't like being in groups. So she wants to do that by herself, but she can still quilt she can quilt anywhere. Right. Mm-hmm. So I think it's assessing. I have an intake form. It's 2 pages and it's asking all of the different questions. What do you need? What are you interested in? What are your needs? Like, do you need assistance bathing? Do you need assistance with medication? Do you need a 2-person assist to stand up? Like, what are the things that you need? And then finding the place that's going to match those criteria, because the cruise ship places are not going to be good for the woman who wants to sit in her room and quilt.
Mm-hmm.
But if her husband is very social, then maybe there's a place that can accommodate both. Or maybe it's okay to be cruise ship type, because as long as she's not going to participate anyway, and then that gives him more options for what he wants. So I think it's really individual. And but I do try to explain, like if I'm sitting in somebody's home and they're like, well, what do we do with all of our stuff? And they're having to go to the grocery store, but they don't drive very well, or he just had surgery, so now he can't drive. So now the wife has to drive, but she doesn't usually drive because he's usually the driver. So like if you live in an assisted living community, you don't have to worry about any of that, because there's transportation. If you need to go to the store and your foot is hurting, let them take you. And so if your toilet breaks, you call maintenance and they fix it. If you're hungry, breakfast is served, go get it. If you don't feel like going out, have them deliver it to your room for $5. It's that easy. And so as you get older, and Pete, maybe when you were younger, you weren't ready for that environment. But if you're 80 and everything else has slowed down, and maybe a lot of your friends are gone, or maybe you don't have a lot of family around, maybe it's just my personality, but I can't imagine anything that I would love to be in one of these communities when I'm older, so that I'm not sitting alone in my house having to, because if I'm on the couch and I'm just thinking of like my dad, if he's sitting on the couch and he needs water, for him to have to get up and get his walker and walk to the kitchen to get a glass of water, when somebody can just when he could just have it given to him, it's so much nicer.
Yes.
And then he doesn't have to exert that energy for something that somebody else can help him do. So, I think also touring is a big thing, when people get to see the places live and they get to walk in and they either go, oh, I love it here, or this doesn't feel right. You really do get a sense of you can tell right from when you walk in. So trying to convince people, not convince, but trying to get to the point where after speaking with them, I can get them to look at some places that I've recommended. Because first, what I'll do is I'll get their information. Then I send them an email with recommendations, and it's all spelled out with links and pricing for each place. And they can click on them and they can look around. And then I'll follow up and say, so out of those 4 places that I sent you, which ones do you want to tour? Did any of them resonate with you? And if they say, I like the first 3, I'll call and I'll set up tours, and then we'll go together and we'll look through the place, and some places may not have any availability, but we'll look anyway, because you never know. And they might not be ready until 6 months. So let's go see where you want to live in 6 months, so we can get your name on the waiting list now. And so there's lots of different, again, every situation is very different, but we're doing the same thing for everybody, essentially.
I kind of, as you're explaining this to me, there's need for mentors and coaches because a facility that's selling is biased. They're going to sell you on the facility.
Of course.
You aren't biased. You're trying to connect your client with the best possible living situation.
Right.
And there's so many factors in that. I would play bingo occasionally just to hang out with them, go to breakfast, have some fun, but I was working. But here's what I noticed. The art class was the most popular class in the facility. And there was a lady that taught it and put it all together. Right. She was an art teacher. And so she wanted to keep creating. But even the guys would come to it because they love to create.
Well, it's something they can do, and there's no right or wrong, right? It's not like you're doing a Rubik's Cube and you either can do it or not. Art is objective. It's anyone can do it. And as long as they're not saying it has to look like this. My mom is an art teacher. My mom is an artist, and she hates it when you go to those classes where everyone does the exact same drawing or the same painting. Like they say, now take the yellow and go down in the she's like, why can't they just say everyone paint their own picture? She wants it to, because then if it's not exactly how the teacher's looks, you think you didn't do a good job, or you don't think it's good enough. Whereas if you just painted your own, no one can say it's bad because it's yours. And I think as an 80-year-old, as a senior going into these places, it doesn't matter what your handwriting looks like. It doesn't matter if you're a good or bad artist. It doesn't matter if you're a good bridge player. You can still play. You can still play. And I think about these people in these places too. Like when I'm looking, like they've all moved in, right? They've all left their homes to
Mhm.
to transition to this place. So how did they get to here, and who were they before they came here? Because
Yeah.
we all have past lives, right? Like they
Yes.
were doctors, lawyers, they could be a salesperson for 50 years in medical equipment, who knows? And now they're in this place with people that they didn't grow up with, they're not their neighbors, and they're
Yeah.
having to start this whole new friendships. And so
Yes.
it's nice to see at meals when people have been there for a while and they know each other, and there is a
Mhm.
sense of community. And I find that very valuable to be a senior and have that advantage instead of being
Mhm.
home alone. You shouldn't have to be by yourself.
No, I totally agree with you. Growing up, so you have 3 brothers and sisters,
Mhm.
like,
I have an
where
older brother and 2 older sisters.
okay, so you're the youngest.
Mhm.
Okay. So I love birth order. Is everybody in your family like Molly? I mean, are they like nice,
Yeah.
connecting? I mean, I know they're nice, but
So
what's the
everybody's very
difference
outgoing.
in oh, really?
Yeah. So
Okay.
everyone's outgoing. My oldest sister, Carrie, she is the brainiac. Like she's, top of her class, Harvard,
Mhm.
PhD from Princeton, all of that. So I think she's kind of in her own category. And
Yeah.
then my sister Ellen and I are probably the most alike. She lives in New York, and she's an editor for a big publishing company. And uh, my brother is an attorney in New York. So and I'm the youngest by 4 years.
Wow.
So 4, 6, and 8 years older they are. But
So
we are very close. Like, it's
yeah.
nice having technology and FaceTime, and we do a lot of
Yes.
Zoom calls, and we always celebrate birthdays on Zoom so my dad can see everybody. And
Mhm.
and so yeah, we're all very close.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I'm the second of 6. And so, growing up and having that bigger family and all the different personalities and things like that, it is kind of cool how different people perform and not perform, but behaviors
Yeah.
depending on where they
Well,
they were born.
my brother and I were probably the closest to my grandfather because we were young enough to need his help because my mom had the older kids. And so like my grandfather, did a lot with me specifically, but also my brother.
Mhm.
And then when my parents moved to Atlanta, my brother and I still lived in New York with my grandfather.
Mhm.
And so he and I took turns. Like it's a long story, but we basically took care of him. And then it was kind of like, well, then my brother moved to New York because he graduated from law school, and I was by myself, and they said, let's move grandpa to Atlanta. So
Mhm.
once they moved into Atlanta, I was up in New York by myself, and I was like, well, I'm going to move to Atlanta. So then I came down. So we've kind of always been taking care of somebody, whether it's my
Mhm.
grandfather, now it's my parents. And just growing up, I was the one that was probably the most connected to seniors,
Yeah.
to my dad's office and at Garden Village. And just, I remember the pictures. I don't know where they are. I wish I could find them, but there's one
Mhm.
of me. I'm so little. I've got like pigtails or something. And I'm like maybe 5. And I'm sitting there with like a cake, and there's all these seniors around me wishing me happy
Mm.
birthday.
Oh, that
I
is
was
so
their
neat.
entertainment.
Yeah. Oh, they love when the grandkids would come over to the
Yeah, the
facility.
best.
They love it. They
Yeah.
just love being around kids, and it was just it's almost like they light up
Yeah. Well,
when
there's a
they
105-year-old woman that was a Holocaust survivor at my parents' place,
okay.
and she's incredible. And she's so with it, and she's just sharp as a tack, and she loves my daughter, who's almost 13. And so every time we go to visit them, we have to go see Irma, and we sit in Irma's room. We visit with Irma, and she gives little gifts, and it's so sweet. And
Yes.
so even my daughter is learning how she's great with seniors. She's so good with my parents. She's so good with her grandfather. Like she's just an old soul. So it's fun to see her take on some of, the same family stuff. But just growing up with my siblings, since I was the youngest, my dad was in business with his brother, and
Mhm.
he had 3 kids that were younger than I am. So I
Mhm.
spent more time with my cousins because they were closer to my age. And
Mhm.
my aunt was younger than my mom, like she was more hip. Like I always was with my aunt and uncle. And because they worked together, We were together all the time, and we had dinner together every Friday night. And then we lived together in the summers in a summer home that was 30 minutes away. And my dad and my uncle would drive to work every day, but my mom and my aunt and all the kids would stay out at the lake.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was always 15 people for dinner every single night for 2 months straight. July and August, we had 15 for dinner because that's who lived there. And then you'd have friends, and you'd have your friends over, and then the neighbors would come, and then the boat would come by, and 5 people would get off and have dinner. And it was just total chaos all the time. And that's how we lived. And, when you went to the grocery store, you bought the large ketchup. You didn't buy the little one because you needed a lot. And people couldn't understand that. Like, why are you buying so much ketchup? Like, just wait, you'll see. And then, everyone, 15 people put ketchup on their hot dogs, and it's out. So I've always been comfortable around a lot of people. I've always been comfortable around family and friends. And I've always been very social. And my husband makes fun of me because when he goes away, I'll invite my friends over. Like, I don't want to be like, I have the night to myself and with my daughter. And I'm like, I don't want to be here by myself. Like, I'm free tonight. Like, who wants to come over? And he's always like, why don't you want to just like take advantage of the time to have to yourself? I'm like, is that boring? I don't want to be by myself. So I would love to live in an assisted living community because I'd have people around all the time.
Yeah. That was, I would just go down when I take breaks.
Right.
I'd be podcasting. I was bringing people on. Actually, Tara came into the facility with her husband, and it was like, he's a golfer. And so we were geeking out on golfing and stuff, but it was just neat to be in a community, to be around people.
Right.
You could choose to go down, hang out, play cards, play bridge, play bingo, all the things going on that really connect people.
Or don't.
Yeah.
Or don't do it and stay in your room. But you're still going to have interaction. Even if you stay in your room, housekeeping is going to see you. You're still going to have a meal. Like, you're not isolated, even if you want quiet.
Yeah, totally. You choose how you want to make community, but it's there for those that want it. And that is good to see.
And another thing I was going to say, is these places have a lot of accommodations that maybe you don't have in your home, like a walk-in shower, or a puzzle table, like a place to do a puzzle.
Yes.
And or even Netflix, or like something like the movie options that you don't have that at home. So that's another thing that, you don't have to have all of these things at your home because you come to this place and they have it all there for you.
Yes.
You don't need to go out and buy a puzzle. They have a whole room they have a library. They have the newspaper every morning delivered. They have, people say, oh, it's so expensive. Well, you're spending money to stay home and you're getting nothing. So, but we also recommend people meet with financial advisors and elder care attorneys and Medicare. There's people that, as a senior, that is important to. It's not just one-stop shop. It's important to get a lot of what's the word? Procedures in place so that when you need it, you're ready to go.
I always could. I'm just gonna. I want you to share with our viewers, knowing a lot of people in the industry, because when I did digital marketing, they would search Google and they would just find somebody that, just the reviews, but you vent your vendors, you vent your relationships. So they're not just hiring Molly to locate them and go through that maze. When they need this, they can ask you because you're always in that environment and you see the good ones. So just talk a little bit about what do you see like as connecting people with the right relationships? How beneficial is it for that person that's going into unknown territory? They've never done this before. They're now stepping in. A lot of them will move from an area to be closer to grandkids, and they don't know anybody. They don't have their doctors. They don't have their nurses. They don't have their. So just kind of talk about that as your role in really helping them navigate the relationship part.
Well, it starts with that initial intake form where I'm gathering the information of what they're looking for and what their budget is and all that. And then when I put in a search for their, let's say they want to be within 10 miles of Marietta, whatever area. and I come up with 16 places, I'm not sending them all 16 places to look at. So out of those 16, I go, well, this place, they have new management. They don't know what they're doing. This place is okay, but they don't. So another thing is there's some places that only have independent living, that only have assisted living, that only have memory care, that have 2 of the 3, that have 2, so depending on what stage you're in, like if you're pretty independent, you might want to move into an independent living facility that has assisted living so that you can not have to move again. You just move to a different room. And then maybe your spouse is showing cognitive decline. It'd be nice if it also has memory care so that you can kind of stay within the one place that fits. But some people like this independent living that doesn't have anything else, but they want to live here, but they know that when they need something else, they're going to have to move again. So that's another question of finding out what the people want. And then finding that right fit. So out of the 16 choices, there might only be 3 that fill those criteria. And then out of the 3, we go tour and they don't like one of them. And then it's, it's just it all depends on what.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts.
There's a fit for everyone because there's every place has so many things going on and so many options and so many activities and pools and exercise rooms. And they really are incredible. They really are.
Yeah. And what I saw when I was I was real involved for a year and a half. And then I had to drive over to Dunwoody for the AC. I get the initials. They meet at the synagogue over there.
Oh, ASCNN. Yeah.
Yeah. ASCNN. And it was hard just navigating all the roads. But here's what I wanted to ask you is what do you think in your travels, what do you look for when you're going to a meeting with people in the industry? How does Molly step into those rooms? I have an idea, but I just want you to describe that.
So the other day I was at the Smyrna Business Association meeting and it was my turn for my 60-second spiel, and the person right before me was talking about, the ice coming up. He was a roofer and he was talking about the slipper, if you slip and you fall. And so when I got up, I said, okay, so let's say you fall down the stairs, you hurt yourself, you break your ankle, now you have to go get surgery. So you go to the hospital and you come out of the hospital, they're saying you have to leave, but you're really not ready to leave and you can't come home because you can't walk upstairs. So you go to rehab. Rehab, you're sitting there for 30 days. You're so weak now, you can't go back home. What do? That's where you call me. And I can help you. Ooh. I can help you find the right fit so you don't have to go back home and struggle getting up the stairs and falling again. There's different signs that you look for to know that it's time to start looking. Like, are you getting your medications properly? Are you falling a lot? Are you in and out of the hospital more than you should be? Are you forgetting things? Are you putting the keys in the freezer? There's a lot of different, are you stumbling more? Are you forgetting? Are you having difficulty opening your pill bottles? So there's services that can help with all of those things. And you can do it in your home, but you can also go to a community and have people there that will help you 24/7. So I don't know if
that's really good.
What the question was, but
no, that was good. That was really good. Kara, there was one time she drove me over to Dunwoody, and so I was in the car going to the event and then coming home, and the phone was like ringing, and a couple calls were from people that just wanted to talk. Clients, they just want to talk. They just want to talk. And Tara was, how nice she is. She was very nice and just, hey, look, I do have work to do. I mean, I'd love to talk to you.
Right.
How do you handle the ones that love to talk, but yet Molly's got a job to do too? How do you balance that? Is there something that you could share that just is helpful for people to kind of bridge those things?
I mean, my job is to connect people and to do so if somebody wants to talk and they're lonely, and I'll listen. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know. I have time to listen to people. I have time to schmooze, I mean, that's okay. So I think it's just, it depends. Yeah. It depends.
What would you say, when you're not working, what do you like to do to kind of recharge the batteries, or what's Molly like to do for fun? Do you play musical instruments? Do you do anything?
I wish. I played the French horn and then I got
your chill time. What's your chill time like?
So I and this is like the funniest thing to all of my friends and family, because they would never expect this to be true, but I love camping.
Oh, really?
We have a camper. It's fiberglass. It's 21 feet long. It has
Mhm.
a queen bed and a 6-person dinette that makes another bed for my daughter. It has a bathroom, a kitchen. Like, it's all we need. And I love just being in the woods and walking out of the camper and sitting in a rocking chair with a campfire, looking at the lake and watching the birds and having the binoculars and seeing the boats go by. And we're in Lake Altoona. It's 30, 40 minutes from where I live. So it's
Mhm.
like you're totally on vacation, but you're only a half an hour away. And that's my happy place. So I can
Ooh.
go to the camper, I can sit outside and just sit in a hammock or whatever it is. And that's my recharge. So I actually just did that last week. It was
Yeah.
freezing cold. And we were going camping for Martin Luther King weekend because we had the
Yeah.
extra day. And I said to my husband, you think you could bring the camper up on when, because he tows it, I don't. You think you could bring it up early for me so I could camp by myself for a couple days? And then you guys
Hmm.
meet me on Friday. And he's looking at me like, are you serious? Like, you really want me to do? Because he has to go get the camper, drop it
Yeah.
off, drive home. It's a pain. And then Monday he was like, you still want to do that? And I was like, yes, can I? So I called the campground and I extended the site for 2 extra nights. And he brought it up for me and I met him there and he showed me how to, disconnect the water because it was going to be freezing at night. And
Yeah.
showed me how to turn on the heat because he does everything when we camp.
Mhm.
So, and then he left me there. So I was there Wednesday night and Thursday and Friday. They showed up at about 4:00. So it was great. I had a great
Yeah.
time. And I just
Yeah.
recharged. I still worked. I was doing I was in the Ackworth area. So I drove into Ackworth and I did a couple meetings and I came back to the camper and I
Yeah.
took the dog with me. And it was really cold though. So, but I love doing that. I love traveling. I love going to New York to see my parents and my brother and
Mhm.
sister. I love traveling internationally whenever I can. But really, camping is my easiest go-to.
Yeah, there's so much value. I like to sit on the front porch and the birds
Same.
just
Yeah.
have that. And I now journal. I didn't
Oh,
do it before my stroke, but now I just journal all the time. I just
cool.
like to write. What do you like besides, are you reading when you're up there? Are you doing any activities that that charge and make that a special time?
Um, Part of it is literally just staring at the water, like just
Yeah.
being there and just
Yeah.
acknowledging, like looking at how pretty it is and like looking at the tree. But I also do listen to music. I also read. I just play on my iPad
Yeah.
sometimes. I mean, it doesn't have to be anything big. It's just what I love about it with my family, like when they got there on Friday. I love that we're all together
Yeah.
and there's nowhere else to go. Like, it's not like they're going to be upstairs and they're going to be down the street and they're going to be going to the store. It's like we're all there for the whole weekend together as a family, the 3 of us and the dog.
Mhm.
And I love that because it's like forced family time without having to make plans.
Yeah.
You don't have to go anywhere, but you're together. And we can be doing different things, but we're together. And I can play checkers one game, and then my husband can play the next game, and we can all be working on a sticker book together. Like, we'll do
Mhm.
crafts, and go on a hike. In the summer, we'll go in the lake. So it's a fun little 2-day trip for our
Yeah.
family to do over and over again. And it doesn't cost, it's $35 a night to camp.
Yeah. Oh,
It's so
that's
cheap. I mean, the
yeah,
camper's not cheap, but
yeah, the actual there's so many people I know that are camping
I
people and
love it.
they
And we
love it.
started during COVID. I
Did
actually
you? Okay.
got diagnosed. I had thyroid cancer. And the day that I found out, when my chart, thing came through, my husband was actually driving to Texas to pick up our camper, our first camper. And I remember calling him and I was like, well, I'll give you something to think about while you're driving for 10 hours.
Yeah.
So he came back, we went camping with the new camper, and then I ended up having surgery. It was totally fine. I got, my thyroid taken out, totally fine, cancer-free, no problem. But I think that also kind of put things in perspective. Like, it's
Yeah.
important to do things with your family, and it's important to do things together because she's going to
Yes.
be in college soon and she's going to be out of the house, and we're not going to have that time anymore with her. And just making the best use of our time when we have free time, because we don't have a lot.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
And
What
I think
would you?
when you get older, the people that go into these homes,
Yeah,
if you're in a place where people can come visit you, and some places even have rooms where you can spend the night for like $80. You can, like, if you're coming in from out of town and grandma's in this
yeah.
facility,
Oh
they have
yeah,
a room that they use for
yeah,
family to spend, and then they can eat there and everything. So,
yeah. Those they called it the Dream Suite, and it was booked quite a bit because people
yeah,
do
yeah,
want to have their own space if they have a couple people and they just don't want to move in with a one bedroom.
right.
Where are you going to sleep, on the couch? No, they have facility. What would you say? This is kind of, I know a little bit about the personality of your husband and yourself. Your daughter, which one does she lean towards?
Oh God.
Molly or your husband?
She is so 50-50, it's not even funny.
Really?
Like, if you took her personality traits and let's say there was 20 of them, 10 of them are from him and 10 of them are from me.
Wow.
He really is a perfect mix. I mean,
Yeah.
she gets his humor, I think, from him. She gets her humor from, like, she's sarcastic like he is.
Yeah.
Both of them don't like musicals and singing, like, I am walking down the stairs. That's how they, like, why can't they just say I'm going downstairs? Why do they have to sing it? And I
Yeah.
love musicals and I love Broadway, and that's not them. But he's definitely more introverted.
Yeah.
She's kind of more serious, but she's more extroverted. So I don't know. She's a good little mix. She's almost 13. She'll be 13
that's
on
good.
Wednesday.
That is good. So I want to be respectful of your day.
Yeah.
So tell our viewers, how can they get a hold of you? And then I have one final question.
Okay. So I am available via email. It's Molly S at assistedlivinglocators.com. And it's MOLLIES, like spa. And then my phone number is 678-860-0237. And that's my cell. And that's, either way, you can email me or call me. Awesome. And I can help.
Well, I just want our viewers, share this video with people. I run into people all the time and I ask them, because of my age, their parents are transitioning into senior facilities, is reach out, get people like Molly to help you. It's free.
Yeah. Did you know 80,000 Americans turn 80 every year?
Wow.
So that's a lot of people that are going to need assistance.
Exactly. A lot of people going through the maze of a transition in life, and they could have somebody like Molly hold them by the hand and make sure they're making good decisions and giving them the choices that they need.
Don't do it alone.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So what would you want? What would be the one thing that you would want our viewers to take home from our podcast today?
You're not in this alone. There are services and people that can help you. So if you're struggling with, what do I do? Or you're worried about mom because you don't live local, and every time you check on her, you're kind of worried that what are you going to find next? Then let's talk and let's just get started, because a lot of places have wait lists and it's not an instant. You're not going to be able to move in right away. So it's good to get started and have the idea and have the literature in front of you and have the knowledge, so that when you feel like you're ready, you can, instead of waiting until you fall and it's an emergency and you have to take whatever place has an opening, because that's what happens too. Things, people get into these situations where, like, you go into the hospital and then you come into rehab and now you can't go back home because you're injured or whatever had happened. And you need a place right away because rehab is kicking you out and you can't go home. And so you're going to just take whatever place has an opening, and it might not be that great, but you still have to go through the whole process of moving in, and you still have to go through all of the paperwork, and it might be not a good place, but you have no choice because you need it right away, versus giving yourself the time. Like this family I'm working with, they're not ready to move. They're fine living in their townhouse. They're okay where they are. But all it takes is one thing to happen.
Yep.
And then one of them could pass away. And maybe they don't want to live alone after that. Maybe now they're fine, but when one of them dies, so there's so many different reasons. So I think the key is to get started early, get the information, start the process, so that when you are ready, it's started already.
Awesome. Well, Molly, thank you so much. It was so worth having. I mean, I love to be persistent with certain people, and
Yeah,
getting you on the show,
I
man, was
know.
a
Well, we
treat.
met when I was I only started, in October. So
Yeah, I know.
I didn't want to start talking about something I had no idea. So I'm glad you were persistent, Pete. Thank you for staying
Thank
on top
you.
of me because this has been fun.
It's been a real pleasure to have you on. So thank you
Thank
for
you.
taking the time to share your story and the impact that you're making in the senior community. We appreciate that.
Thank you.